Welcome back to another quick review. Today we are talking about The Last of Us Season 2. Now, I'd like to get this out of the way before I talk about this show. I have played both the games. I've played Part 1, I've played Part 2. I enjoyed both of them. I really liked Part 1, and I love Part 2. I am one of the very few Part 2 enjoyers of this on planet Earth, it feels like, right? I really enjoyed Season 1. I thought it was really good, really faithful, but also takes some new, uh, takes the story in new places, new directions, adds on certain things that I think overall work for the entire for the season, right, for the story as a whole. All three of the things that I just talked about, you can find a quick review for on my channel. I have talked about this at length. Uh, like I said, I enjoyed season one, I enjoyed part one, and I love part two. With all that being said, Last of Us season two, in my opinion, it's not good. It's so unfortunate. It's not good. Um, I think a lot of my issues with season two have to do with taking what they did with season one and doing it to an extreme, where season one feels like a faithful adaptation, but with things added in that make the story better. That, like, things added in that felt like they were cut out of the video game for time, but ultimately would have made the story better if they were in the game, right? It feels like it could have been in the game fine, perfectly, and you wouldn't have noticed, right? Season two, um, doesn't do that. If season two adds on some stuff that I think is weird, but as well as prioritizes certain things in the story that shouldn't be prioritized. Um, and I think my stance on like adaptations as a whole is I firmly do not believe that an adaptation needs to be 1-to-1 for it to be good. I'm a Marvel fan. I'm a DC fan. I also read comic books, so I know that these adaptations aren't going to be perfect, right? It's just or 1-to-1. It's just kind of the nature of how these things work. Um, but I do believe that if you're going to be adapting a story that is like so streamlined, centered, and it works, I do think you need to be at the very least faithful to the adaptation without doing too much. Obviously, you get to a point where, like, oh yeah, why watch the TV show if I could just watch the game if it's going to be a 1-to-1 copy? And I understand that. That's why I say I like season one for how it adds on to certain bits. But uh, season two just feels like it's doing too much. I have notes here. I feel like I'm rambling, so I did write notes down just so I could just so we could be a little bit quicker with this. So this doesn't go on for 15 minutes. And so the first thing I have written down here is um, Tommy as a character, right? A lot of what kind of made me upset with this show, like besides like quality wise, I do think the quality feels like it's decreased in the first couple of episodes. At least the last couple of episodes, quality wise, really good, but the first couple of episodes at least. But like a lot of my issues kind of stem from Tommy. Tommy, at the very least in the games, represents the central themes and ideas and concept of what that story is trying to go for with revenge and a cycle of violence, right? That's like the very center at part two's core. And one of the things that Tommy does, is a spoiler, is he goes he goes for revenge first. Um, like, and so that doesn't happen in the story. It's like Ellie and Dina just leave on a revenge mission. I feel like one of the things that messes up for me, at least, is that without Tommy going out, rather than Ellie just using the search as an excuse for revenge, it's just a full-on revenge story, which leads into the next point. That would work if it didn't feel like Ellie needed to be convinced that to be angry. Certain relationships and dialogue in this show play for whatever reason play like a teen drama, and that doesn't make sense. And then a lot of that has to do with the fact that Ellie just for a lot of it just feels like she isn't mad. Like there isn't any urgency. Like there isn't any what's the word? Like there isn't any rush to go after Dina, right? It feel for a little bit it feels like Ellie and Dina's happy-go-lucky adventures, backpacking adventures for for a lot of the season. Which leads to my next point, and that's about Ellie and Dina's relationship. Um, I love their relationship in the games. I think it works. I think they play off of each other really well, right? A lot of what throws me off in in this season of the show was it feels like it takes center stage above everything else, which I don't think it needs to do. And throwing that aside, even that for a moment, I do, like I said, I do normally love their relationship, and I think there are certain points in the show that are executed really well. I do think their banter in the show, for the most part, there are a lot of things that don't work for me. But I think for the most part, is executed really well. The problem is that what I love about their relationship originally is that above all else, Ellie's feelings and emotions in regard to getting revenge took priority, which makes the pregnancy reveal seem so much weirder. Because the sequencing of events is weird as is. Like just not even from like a game standpoint, but from like a writing or just a human standpoint. Why why when somebody's like you're on this revenge mission, that could get everybody killed, you feel guilt about a child when about somebody maybe having a baby. When somebody tells you that you're pregnant, you like you should do if you're at the very least if you're blinded like revenge like Ellie should probably be at this point. She'd be like, Dina, you're a liability, or why didn't you tell me? Like you'd be angry, which is exactly what happens in games. Going from a pregnancy reveal straight into having sex is a weird decision, just regardless of anything, regardless of how of like Ellie's emotions or how or Ellie as a character. It's just weird. That sequence of events is very weird, and it feels like um it just feels weird. It feels out of place. And then you throw that aside for a moment, and it feels like Ellie is more upset about the situation. Not Ellie. Dina is more upset about the situation than Ellie, which ties back into that Ellie has to be convinced that she should get revenge point, right? It also feels like the show is trying to soften events and hold your hand. It's like it doesn't trust the audience to understand these complex characters and why they do what they do. Now, I say this knowing full well what happened with Laura Bailey in The Last of Us Part 2. I say full well knowing and understanding what happened and how and why that happened. I get that part, right? Because what happened with her in that game should not have happened. It's unacceptable for anybody who did that to her, right? But I do think one of the things that I do respect about The Last of Us Part 2 is that even knowing that even like the writers knowing that there's going to be a lot of hate for it, they still went and executed the idea, right? But it doesn't feel like that in the show. And that goes back to I think that also like ties back into Ellie being so happy-go-lucky during some of the during a decent amount of the Seattle episodes, as well as Tommy just as a character who's, like I said, whose arc is so integral to the themes of that game. Let's just scrap that. Okay, but it's whatever. It's like they're scared that the audiences won't like the characters or their actions, rather than properly telling the story, not telling like rather than properly telling a story. Not telling the story, not telling like a one-to-one adaptation of The Last of Us, but telling a story, because unless it's a kid's show, no story should be told like that. You should be able to trust the audience to understand. And if the audience doesn't understand, or if the audience is like extremely confused, then that feels it's a you thing, right? But at the very least, you should try to trust the audience to understand what the role is going on, which makes the show have the wildest tonal whiplash I have ever seen. Because, like I said, it feels like we're going from teen drama to full-on revenge plot, which is weird. above all else, just the characters don't feel like themselves. Which, of course, like I said, adaptations don't need to be 1-to-1. But when season 1 of this show nailed these characters so well, to throw all that out in season 2 makes no sense to me. A couple other things. For some reason, I think I said this earlier. It feels like Dina is prioritized over Ellie. Like certain episodes, Ellie feels like a side character in Dina's story, which I don't like. It feels a bit off. It feels like Dina got more attention. I like Dina, but Dina got more attention in this show that she probably should have. The pacing is weird. I watched 7 episodes and I felt like nothing happened at least amount of time. The flashbacks with Joel should not have been in one episode. It should have been scattered throughout the show. I think otherwise, I like Bella Ramsey's performance. I still don't. Looks aside, right? I just like looks aside. Like you could say like don't. Okay, I won't say you can say what you want, but like I'm not gonna bring that conversation into this. I think just her acting performance doesn't sell me as Ellie. I think that just has to do with the writing. I don't think the writing of her character is that great in the show. But otherwise, I think, but with what a lot of these actors are given, I think it works really well. And I still think the show overall, the story of the show overall, is still pretty good. But that's just with me having context of the game, not just from a show perspective. I think as a show perspective, it's not good. And yeah, this quick review is getting long. It's 11 minutes long. This might be the longest quick review I've ever done. I'm going to leave it there. Just know, I will still be watching season 3, but I am very scared going forward just because of how season 2 has gone and how much it's just not what it should be. It doesn't live up to its potential. It doesn't live up to, what season 1 was. But yeah, if you want to go watch the show, if you enjoy it, good. I'm glad you did. It's just for me personally, it's a show that feels off. It's a show that does not take any risk. It's a show that doesn't. It's a show that feels like it doesn't trust its audience. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. See ya. Bye.